You know the name, Harvest Moon 64. That charming farm management dating sim a lot of us grew up on. What dark mystery could such a title hold, you ask? Stay tuned to find out next on Matémon's Gaming Mysteries. For my first episode of Mysteries, I'll be talking about the cult classic farm sim many of us played after it arrived in late 1999. This title gave those who grew up on the N64 some unique gaming experiences at the time. From growing our crops to sell or give out generously to villagers, raising our animals to be their very best and help out in all ways, big or small. The second mainline console game in the Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons series is most remembered by many, myself included, for its rapid progression of time that made one feel as though days were moving so fast you may need to keep your distance from your calendar just for your own safety. But what we would come to understand about this series is that farming is indeed a family affair. I could focus on a theory around the fact that your family tree, dating back to the first Harvest Moon on Super Nintendo, could mean any one of this game's 5 bachelorettes could be your cousin. But instead I think I'll examine a dark theory centered on the family running the Vineyard. So after taking some time to explore, we discover a vineyard on the path just over the hill to our right when exiting our own farm. We meet husband and wife Gotts and Sasha, daughter Karen, and vineyard apprentice Kai. While it may not be perfectly clear, some claim the clues given both in the text of these characters and in other implied ways may paint a very dark and abusive existence at the vineyard. Gotts inherited the vineyard after his mother Eve passed away and hasn't had nearly as much success as her running it. He can be found most often at his vineyard, or the few times he's not there, at the bar. Now I know socially closed off characters come along throughout the series, and this game is no different. But Gotts is mistrusting of almost anyone. He's notorious for being one of, if not the hardest character of the entire series to befriend. Making it clear he doesn't put much trust in you, the player, the only gift item that can even increase his affection early game is wild grapes. You won't have much more success with his daughter, whom he openly argues with during the time you form your first impression of him. Easily the most abrasive of the bachelorettes, Karen, the only daughter of the vineyard, will give you the cold shoulder in most early game interactions, though she appreciates several gifts.
Sorry I called you Karen.
That's my name.
Sorry your name is Karen.
Through Sasha, we see a few signs of Gotts' apparent controlling nature. When collecting recipes for most characters in the game, the majority of time we simply need to present the character with their favorite food item before they hand it over. However, for a few we need them to reach a certain affection level first before they will tell you. One of these is of course Gotts.
Steamed clams.
But Sasha is really quite unique in that you must actually befriend her husband Gotts to a certain level before you'll get hers. Possibly, does this hint at maybe an unusual level of control Gotts may have over his wife? He won't allow her to befriend people he hasn't himself? Also, Sasha can always be found inside the main house at the vineyard for all 7 days a week, never venturing outside. Her overall sad demeanor, the constant tension from her husband and daughter's apparent dislike of each other, and the fact that she gave up dancing to move to the vineyard seems to weigh heavily on her. Then again, at one point, Karen seems to think that her mother actually cries too often given the circumstances, and is actually an equal part of the problem. An important clue popular to this theory is the name of the vineyard owner itself, Gotts. A name possibly derived from Götzentrage, a German word meaning idol or false god to be a little more precise. Some have taken this to be a hint towards Gotts being an evil character, but personally I see this as a hint at the fact that Vineyard requires divine intervention to be restored back to where it was when Eve once ran it. I should also probably mention a few more dark moments that come to mind for me as evidence of Gotts' abusive nature, one being Karen's Yellow Heart Dream event. These events usually have something to do with an event your character had with the Bachelorette in the past. Principally for Karen, it was the time the two of you got locked into the Vineyard storehouse. But the dialogue in the dream you have while trying to remember this seems to hint Gotts may have locked Karen in the storeroom once as an act of stern disciplinarianism. Why he would do this isn't made clear, Maybe she kept sneaking in and drinking wine without permission or something. But who would do that? The next moment that may seem off is the fact Karen mentions other times when her father used to drink. He would even dance with her. This could be seen as particularly alarming, but I must point out that abuse of this nature actually seems unlikely for a few reasons. 1. A parent is actually quite unlikely to abuse their own biological child in that way. And 2. When put in context, Karen is talking about the positive nature of alcohol, and even has a kind expression. It seems more likely here she is reminiscing about a time her father opened up and was a little more kind to her. The fact he danced is significant as well, since we know this is a favorite hobby of Karen which she picked up from her mother, while her love of drinking comes from her father. It's more likely she herself asked her father to dance, and only after drinking did the usually stone-cold Goths actually agree. Just to round out this strange theme of inheritability coincidences with Karen, even the few blonde strands of hair she had somehow came from her grandmother according to her. Kai fits into this theory as well. Though he could be seen to have a soft follower-type personality due to his upbringing, he may not be the best person to stand up to Goths. But perhaps he doesn't have to? He does have a high level of passion for winemaking and considers Goths a true master in the field. Though he doesn't play the role of peacemaker between Karen and her father very well, he does stay loyal to the Vineyard to the bitter end. It's very important to note that if something dark were happening, wouldn't Kai notice it? Though Karen and her father both partake in drinking quite often, and seem quite obsessed with it, whether it's in giving gifts of alcohol, and all other bachelors prefer to stick with cookies and such, making alcoholic beverages from flour somehow, or giving cake, infused with alcohol naturally. Despite this, they should not be assumed to be bad characters. At least if research done by CAMH, otherwise known as the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, is to be taken seriously. Alcohol does impair judgment, coordination, and lead one to a state of inhibition. Put short, alcohol cannot change one morally. In fact, even heavily drunk people could still describe what they are doing and even the consequences. But it will make them not care for those consequences very much. That takes us to the bar where we find Duke, a character important for starting the Vineyard restoration event, but he also gives us some important insight about the bar itself. He states that many people show a different side of themselves here than their usual selves, and indeed certain ruffians can be talked to here, and the darker and gloomier sides of usually easygoing villagers do come out. But of course, Gotts too has an interesting side of him come out. He is, in my opinion, actually revealed to care quite a lot about his daughter. He may have just a little bit of difficulty in dealing with her since the troubles apparently began right around the time Eve passed away and the Vineyard began to fail. Ultimately, my conclusion on the matter is that you as the player are incredibly crucial to saving this family. It is for this reason I always enjoyed the Vineyard restoration event and find it so worthwhile to accomplish in this game, because the stakes here seem so high. I think the differences in Karen's character between your first meetings and her excitement when the Kyufu fairies actually return is so touching. That's about all I have to say about this mystery. Until next time, farewell.